Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, you can hear me? Not too far, right? Okay. So what I want to do is take you through a few 10 minutes presentation with a nice demo. Okay, just how we can help you remediate risk. And I think one of the important thing is, let me go back actually. The fact that knowing of the risk is just one thing. The hard part and the important part is actually going away and addressing the risk and fixing and eliminate the risk. And that's what we want to discuss in this short presentation. So the core and the challenge that most of us find is there are two teams. There are security team and IT team. Those teams do not talk to each other in many cases, which means it takes more time, there's a friction, and we need to go fast and fix those vulnerabilities. So what can we do? Even before we go to what can we do, let's look at some interesting numbers. I'll stand here so everybody can see. It takes 30.5 days to remediate, mean time to remediation. So that's how much, an average time it takes for customer to actually remediate. If you look at the numbers, 18.5 days is how much time it takes for the bad guys on average to weaponize the vulnerability. Which means if you guys are patching or you're fixing vulnerability after 30 days, and it's about 80 days that it takes the bad guys to weaponize the vulnerabilities, it leaves the bad guys 12 days to actually exploit those vulnerabilities and get into your organization, right? Now, just as a comparison, customers using the Qualys patch solution are able to do it faster. And that's very important. And the reason they are able to do it faster because we built the integration between the detection, finding those vulnerabilities, and actually applying the patch using automation or any other things. So they are much faster. Another interesting statistics is this chart. So you look here at CISA vulnerabilities and how fast customers actually remediate them. So you can see what we talked about in the beginning. Most customers using patch can easily go and fix most of them. But what's interesting is the long tail that goes all the way there. There are tons of vulnerabilities that customers just are not able to fix because of different reasons. Now, last year, it doesn't work. So just last year, just to give you some context, when I'm talking about specific patch management, just last year, Qualys delivered 110 million patches through our customers. So this is a very important numbers just to show you guys, we are a very big patch solution. It's not a small patch solution, one of the biggest in the floor here. So we delivered tons of patches. But this year, we expanded our solution, and what we're trying to do now is not focus only on patches, but expand and allow you to address all this long tail that I showed you before. So we can do the patches, we can do fixes. Fixes are all those vulnerabilities that do not have a patch at all. There's just no patch. We can actually apply a configuration change to fix those patches. Everything is out of the box, ready for you to deploy. We can mitigate, so vulnerability that you guys do not want to patch, because there's a risk of the application crashing or something, you can apply mitigation that Qualys creates for you, and you just need to click and deploy them. Once you apply a mitigation, you'll see the result immediately back in our console. So you'll see vulnerabilities marked as mitigated. Custom to your needs. So on top of everything, we open the platform and allow you guys to create your own mitigation, your own fixes, and actually we built a very large library of remediation script. What does it mean? There are many vulnerabilities that are hard to fix. For example, a Java that just sits there and hard to fix, Zoom that sits on your user space. All those things, we have a library of action you can take to actually remediate this risk and fix it. And last but not least, isolate. In worst case scenario, if you guys cannot touch the device or you don't want to address the device, for example, you have a device that hasn't been patched for 4 months, you can just isolate it from the network. So you can still patch it until it's fully patched. It is isolated, it cannot connect to the network. And the beauty here, as I said, you can still isolate it, you can still patch it. Now, everything that is isolated or mitigated, again, is reflected back in our reports. Really, really important from a compliance perspective. So you can actually see that the risk has been reduced without the need to deploy the patch. Now, few things just to elaborate. The beauty with the solution is it uses the same agent, the same technology that Qualys uses. So if you have Qualys, you already have all the capabilities that I showed you today. If you buy into Qualys, you basically buy into one platform that allows you to execute and do all those actions. Now, if you want and you want to integrate with other platforms, you can integrate with platforms like ServiceNow, any other ticketing solution, so you can have a full-blown remediation solution. Last but not least, if you do not want to use us to deploy the patches and you currently have SCCM, Intune, or something like that, you can still use those tools and use Qualys to orchestrate everything and use SCCM or Intune to be the one that actually deploys the patch or the mitigations. And with that, let me do a quick demo. Okay, so what we're going to see in this demo, if this works. Okay, so this is our view of all the vulnerabilities. Okay, so very simple. Let me do that so you can see better. Should disappear, good. So here's the vulnerabilities. This is a Qualys view of vulnerability that we find in the environment. You can already see that those vulnerabilities, we can tell you if there's patches or mitigation for those vulnerabilities. But the key here, here's the security team. They see those vulnerabilities. Now they need to actually act on those vulnerabilities. Now what's interesting, those are prioritized vulnerabilities. Those are vulnerabilities that we actually want to address and fix. So what are we going to do here? We're going to select all those vulnerabilities, and we're going to basically assign them to a new what we call view risk elimination. This is basically like a cockpit. This next screen is like a cockpit for your remediation team. It is designed to help you fix the problems. So you can see here, you can see all the vulnerabilities that you want to fix. But what's interesting here, your team can actually see what are the options for them to fix them. So do they want to deploy a patch, and we tell you exactly what patch you need to deploy. It's not a guess, it's the specific patch. And we tell you if there's a mitigation that you can apply instead of deploying the patch. So let's look at this specific patch. Now, what are we doing here? We're telling you information about the patch. So you can see this patch is not reliable, because Qualys technology, which is based on AI and other technology, other algorithms, estimated and figured out based on internet, based on different feeds, if there's a risk of deploying this patch. And because we did figure out there is a risk of deploying the patch, we're telling you, be careful. Before you deploy the patch, do some tests, make sure this patch doesn't do any harm to your environment. However, to make it even easier, you don't have to deploy the patch. You can actually take a mitigation route. Again, a mitigation is something you can deploy instead of deploying the patch until you can actually deploy the real patch. So now you can see what the mitigation does. In this case, it just stops the specific service. It's a printer service, so most applications don't need a printer service. And once you deploy this mitigation, directly from here, you'll go back to VMDR, you'll go back to your remediation, and you can see now it is mitigated. Now, it's really important to understand, when you show this report to your boss or your compliance auditors, it says it is mitigated. No other solution can do it today because you have one solution to scan for vulnerability and another solution may or may not to fix or mitigate the vulnerabilities. They are not talking to each other. Now they are. So you know as a fact that this vulnerability has been mitigated. Now let's continue. And you can see I focus on the mitigation. So in your compliance report, it says mitigated. Now we're back to our remediation cockpit. Let's take another option, win, verify, trust. If you guys are in the vulnerability, understand vulnerabilities, you all know that this vulnerability cannot be patched. There's simply no patch for this vulnerability. So you can see here, it says there's no remediation available. You cannot, technically, you cannot patch this vulnerability. Whatever you can do, you can update the registry. That will solve the vulnerability. This will solve the win, verify, trust. Now, how do we know that? The same research team that actually build those signatures are continuing and looking at those vulnerabilities, and they figured out what did they actually need to do to fix this specific vulnerability. So it's the same team that writes a signature, also provide you the solution for the signature. Okay, so now you know as a fact that if you deploy this mitigation, you can just click on this button and deploy this ready to be deployed fix, and it will fix this vulnerability, so the next time you run a vulnerability scan, this vulnerability will not be there. Okay, so we're doing our best. We're giving you this, what I call the cockpit, to figure out what is the best option for addressing the risk. Again, if it's a patch, you can see those patches are reliable, so you can just deploy the Zoom directly from here. but you should be worried about this one because we flag it as a problem, so you may want to choose the mitigation. Okay? Now, let me continue here. I want to show you one last thing. Oh, actually, it will show you the fix. Again, it explains exactly what we do, so we're not asking you to do something on blind. We provide all the information of what's going to happen. For IT teams, they can rest assured that we can tell them what's going on. Now, let me focus on that. Everybody asked about that. Everything that you can do, you can roll it back. Okay, really easy to roll back. Mitigations are usually very, very easy to roll back. Let me stop here. I don't know why it doesn't stop. Oops. So go back to there. So you can roll back everything. And as you can, if you remember in the previous one, you can also, as I said, isolate the device from the network, meaning you can take the device out of the network, but you can still patch it. The last thing that I want to show you, I talked about all those unique vulnerabilities. So as you can see, we have a very large library of scripts. And I'm going to drill down into one of those areas just to give you a few examples. So if you can read, and you should be able to read those are a lot of scripts that were written by the Qualys team and designed specifically based on different customers' feedback. So our customer telling us, oh, we have a problem, in this case, uninstalling NMSI software for all users. We have a problem with detecting a Java that is used by our Apache. Because this is an old Java, there's an Apache vulnerability, we don't know what to do. So we collect all this feedback and we build a large catalog of out-of-the-box ready-to-be-deployed scripts, so you guys can use them in your own environment to fix vulnerability that usually takes more time to fix, just because they are more complex. Okay? So everything that you see here is designed to do one thing. And I can actually go back to my PowerPoint. Everything that you see here is designed to do one thing. Take all the findings that we have, all the vulnerabilities and all this risk that we find, help you prioritize it, and then give you this cockpit of options to actually efficiently address this risk, either by a fix, either by a patch, either by a mitigation, either by an isolation, and many, many more things are coming to this platform. Okay? And with that, I would like to thank you, everybody.